am Dr. Elizabeth Samantha Rothschild Judge, and I am done with both of my organizations' business tax reports 2024 with forecast and special activity included, and I am glad that's a relief. So I was trying to clear my mind and think about the forward accounting to say my federal policy. It all usually goes through the state, and with me being at the time in the state of Texas, it was just that one state. And then that state became accountable for further policy that derived in other states. So with that being completely accounted for, what's left is to determine the federal policy. Now, being in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, Washington, the capital of the United States of America, how it's supposed to go, which is why I'm having to deliberate here, private chambers, and with regard to tax law. How it's supposed to work is that tax credit or that policy authorization contract is supposed to apply to all 50 states. Because I am a public figure, and especially with internet presence, being sought after by many from all states and as well internationally, it is supposed to, at this point, being in Washington, D.C., apply to all 50 states, meaning that $29 billion federal policy should be multiplied by 50, and then that is what the tax policy covers for corporate law and securities incorporated. So I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that I have to count 50 states, $29 billion for 50 states. I mean, it's good to get the money in because my company knows what to do with the money in order to stimulate our economy and provide an economic balance and everything. But who said I wanted to account all of that? So I'm thinking about it and trying to figure out how to just charge it one time to our government instead of 50 times. Well, I don't want to headquarter my company in another place, and being a resident Washingtonian now, this is where it's applied. So I'm thinking, and then I'm dealing with unavoidable interactions. So as I'm walking, I'm thinking, what in the world makes anybody think that I want to be bothered with them at any particular time, that it looks to them like I'm available. You know, I have think tank and I have other things that I do and things that I have to consider. And just because it looks to someone like I'm available for interaction does not mean that I am. And even if I were, it does not mean that I want to. So I'm like, I left out of the shelter a little while ago because I just didn't feel like being bothered, and I didn't feel like interacting with anyone who feels that, oh, well, just because I'm around, it's okay to interact directly or indirectly, even if they quote unquote weren't talking to me or weren't addressing me, didn't mean to involve me. Quite certainly, even indirectly, if I'm involved in it, then it's still work for me. Everything is work for me. So I come outside and I feel the same thing when I'm out in the general public. So my policy is applied for 52 billable hours annually. And that means that $29 billion belongs to corporate law and securities incorporated by federal policy and tax code for 52 hours of being forced into having to do anything that significantly or even remotely identifies as work for me or the others in my company. So just when I'm trying to figure out how to make it just one charge, one federal policy, the $29 billion, so much activities going on around me where I can't avoid the interactions. I can't avoid overhearing something that someone's saying because they want me to hear it, whether it matters to me or not. Because, when I don't feel like it, I'm like, I don't care, or interacting with persons, even just looking at me, because I have degrees that cover all of this. So, as it happened, what's going on is that federal policy going forward goes in on my next business tax report, or if I send in the adjustment prior to then, to where now where Corporate Law and Securities Incorporated automatically received by federal policy the $29 billion for 52 billable hours per week, plus the triennial retainer of $840 million. Now it's multiplied by 50 for all 50 states. Just because they can look on the internet and see me on the internet in Hawaii. What's been proven is if I moved to Hawaii, the same following me around would go on there that goes on here. And so it automatically applies for work to say that is a justifiable charge. It's justifiable because it happens and it's going to continue to happen. It's not going to stop from happening. And, I'm like, if I have to thrive off of people's dysfunction because they won't leave me alone to do the little petty work I'd prefer to do for just a few little money, then I'll go ahead and take my tax credit. So going forward, I need to make that announcement. Well, not need, but I'm making that announcement that many years ago with the Internal Revenue Service, I got them to agree for a while for it to be just one federal policy, and that only in extenuating circumstances would there be more than one. And they told me, you'll come around to seeing things our way and we will make the adjustment at that time. And they gave me that leeway because my company is the first in a very, very long time since the inception of the Internal Revenue Service that achieved that particular height of commercial activity. So now 50 states, all 50 states, it is applied. And I do international business. So because now I have to apply for the charge for the federal policy for all 50 states, now I have to go in and see what the international business charge is to apply for international policy and charge that. As if I can think of what to do with the money that's already earned. And here's some more. But I tell you one thing. The more I give my time in service, the more God gives to me. Fruition, production, productivity, and then more fruition. So there it is. And I really was getting upset about it. I'm like, why? If people would just leave me alone, and then it's like, the negative part of it are the ones that don't want me to make the money and would prefer for me to stay homeless. So if they would leave me alone, that's exactly what would have happened. Dividing himself, Satan is. So that's that. All right, everybody, have a great evening.